Welcome all. Pleased to see you for the last meeting of the current political year. I think before we look at apologies, it's the last meeting of the TDC, certainly for two of our valued members who are standing down. That's Roger Lawrence and Ted Richards. And I'd just like on everybody's behalf to thank them for their advice, contributions and inputs over their time, whether on the committee or before coming on the committee, might I add. And just to say how much appreciate how you'll be missed actually from this group. I hope, Ted, that after years of saying there needed to be a committee with all the cabinet members for transport on it, that you've actually seen that come about. And I attended it last Friday, and I can say that they are attending and they're making an input on behalf of their authorities, their districts, and seeing what's going on in other districts. So it's become a pretty good forum, I think. I think they must be strongly whipped, to be honest. But there we are. So that's pleasing for us all. And I know Roger certainly is more than willing to pick up any particular piece of transport work or research input so that we may be wanting to ask him to undertake. So that's pleasing. So thank you all. And there's some people who will be up for re-election. I wish you a good, clean and honest and decent campaign. I can't wish you all victory, obviously, in equal amounts anyway. But it's been a pleasure working with you all over the last year, exchanging views and making comments and so on. So thank you all. We'll be seeing some of us will be as maybe back on the 14th of June, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. So are there any apologies for absence?
Chair?
I've not received any, Chair.
Tim? I mean, you've blanked out again.
Can you hear me, Chair?
I can now, yeah.
Yes. I would like to be fully associated with your comments about Councillor Lawrence and Ted. Could I just add that since I took over leadership of the Conservative group, Ted has acted as the deputy chairman, and his advice, support, wisdom, knowledge has been absolutely invaluable. So I would like to thank Ted personally for all the help he has given me as deputy leader of the Conservative group during that time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any apologies for absence before we move on? Or did you, are you wanting to contribute to my preamble, Diana? Or
oh yes, I can't possibly let a preamble of yours go by complimenting my colleague. I mean, quite frankly,
yes,
we came on the same day, Ted and I, and the council's never been the same since, and it certainly won't be when he goes in the summer. Really going to miss you, Ted, and I'll miss you here if I have the privilege of coming back, Chairman. Sorry, something's gone down the wrong way, you see. It's the shock of losing my friend. All the best, Ted, and I should be keeping in touch with you one way or the other. Love you all. In here.
Okay. And Celia, I guess that's the right order for this. Celia.
Hi. It would be wrong for me not to contribute to your preambles, Councillor Cat. And
ramblings.
Yeah, I just want to say to veteran leader, Councillor Roger Lawrence, I'm sure every single person will miss you, if not missing you because they are fond of you, missing your wealth of intelligence and your bundle of knowledge. I'm sure the TDC itself will weep when you go. And I think I stand to be corrected to say that we are going to struggle to get somebody else like you who has those years and years and years of experience. So we're definitely going to miss you. I'm definitely going to miss you as my former leader who served for decades in the Wolverhampton Council. And of course, as my colleague on the TDC, not my colleague on Para, but my senior colleague. So thank you for all your years and years and years of service. Thank you for everything, for exemplary leadership. We can only aspire to be on your, on the heights you've attained. So thank you so much. And we are definitely going to miss you.
Okay, thank you. Robert, and then Ted.
Thank you very much, Kath. I just really want to pass on, as everyone has, our thanks to both Ted and Roger for all they've done for the committee over the years. It's quite remarkable for the amount of time they've put in serving the residents of the West Midlands, and I think we owe them both a huge debt of gratitude. And obviously, in relation to Ted, who I do know a bit better, Ted has always been incredibly friendly, knowledgeable and supportive, and very grateful for all his help and support over the years. Thank you very much, Darren.
Ted.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman, and could I thank all those very kind remarks that were made about me this afternoon. It's a sad occasion, really. I'm sad to have to give it up, but I'm getting a bit long in the tooth these days as well. But I really have enjoyed working for. Well, I originally came on, it was the old Centro Committee, and yes. I've enjoyed the work involved with transport. In fact, I've enjoyed all the work that I've done, both as a local councillor and, the various roles which I've held over many years. But it really is nice to hear all the very kind remarks. And I'd also like to pay tribute to colleague Councillor Roger Lawrence. Roger and I have known each other for many years, and I well remember when I was chairman of the West Midlands Joint Committee, Roger was dealing with transport then, for the West Midlands as well. So I'd like to pay tribute to the work which Roger has carried out as well. But on a personal basis, I'd like to pay tribute to my wife, Janet, because she's been a council widow for the last 37 years. Really without the support which I've had from Janet, it's interesting, people ring up and say, where the hell is he? And she used to say, well, he's at a meeting. He's always at a bloody meeting, they used to say. So, I would like to publicly pay tribute to my wife, Janet, because without her support, I wouldn't have been able to do what I have done. But again, thank you all very much for very kind remarks. I'm going to miss you all. I wish the best of luck for the future of Transport Delivery Committee. Circumstances change, and as you said, Chairman, the new Transport Board, I think, was a very useful meeting, was introduced, and it really was a successor to the attempt to try and get cabinet members together on transport, and I think to some extent that is achieving that as well. So thank you all very much indeed. I've enjoyed my time with you, and I wish you all the very best of luck. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I'll move the order now to take Roger next.
I'd just again like to thank everyone for their comments. When you decide to go, and that's what I'm doing. And I've got other things I'm going to be doing, and I look forward to the next chapter. But if you close a previous one, then there's always an element of sadness. But basically, thanks to people, particularly my thanks to Laura, who has shepherded me through the transport portfolio and then TDC, and I think is a great ambassador for our region. So thanks a lot.
Right, thank you. Linda, then Pete. Oh, then sure. Then Laura.
Thank you very much, Kath, and both to Ted and Roger. I've not been long on this committee, but I was on the Transport Committee before when John McNicholas was Coventry's lead member, and also working with Roger on the Refugee and Asylum Seekers Committee. So our paths have crossed, and I certainly have felt the benefit of your wisdom and experience. So you'll both be deeply missed. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Now, Pete, and then Laura.
Great. Well, hopefully just an opportunity to speak, and thank you, Kath. And I know all the councillors have referenced their points, but from a Transport for West Midlands and from an officer perspective and somebody else who was involved in lots of committees in the days of Centro and through the developments of the committee. I'd also just like to pay our thanks, gratitude and respect to both Councillor Lawrence and Councillor Richards for wholeheartedly not only their professionalism, their diligence, but their challenge and robust and supportive challenge, the friendly approach, their humour and their expertise. It really has been, in both of those cases, an honour to work alongside those councillors. And thank you.
Thank you. And Laura, you'll have the last word.
Well, only to put more eloquently than I was going to say, but just a huge thank you from us as officers from the whole organisation to both Councillor Richards and to Councillor Lawrence, who will be desperately missed by us for thanking them for all the support over the years. And somehow I'm convinced that we might still be able to keep you roped into a few local matters. So, you know, you're not going to get away that free.
Absolutely. Well, that's agreed, certainly. Yes, well, thank you, everybody, for that. I know we couldn't let them go without honouring them in this way. Okay, look, we don't know of anybody else who's standing down or from their council position or... No? Okay. Right, well, in that case, perhaps at the end I'll deal with the elections coming up. And the final words of this political year. Do you want to go on to apologies for absence? Hang on, where are we? No, we've done that, haven't we? Declarations, chairs remote. Chairs remotes then, item 3. Quite a few here, and as is normal, I'll do some of my own, and then I ask Pete Bond to feed in any that he has thought of, and then I try to do away with the overlaps and pick them out. Okay. The Pete's bus recovery and transformation report, certainly from the end of February, we had it circulated last week. This is a sort of report, it's continually changing in need of updating. So I will ensure that you get these updates during the coming period up to the 14th of June, certainly, in the absence of meetings, so that you can follow what's going on. I've also asked for, at the start of April, an update on safer travel and resilience in that respect on the network from Mark Babington, so that, you know, anything that people are bringing to you in your districts about the continuing concern about masks on buses and so on, and social distancing, and any timetable changes, and concerns about crime on the services, you can actually give an up-to-date response on that. Now, I think the big story is the £3 billion plan for buses, which was announced this morning. I understand that the Prime Minister was in Coventry today to launch it, which ties up nicely with the Coventry all-electric bus city developments, which you'll have seen from your Combined Authority Board report, due to go there on Friday. It will include bus lanes, daily capping measures, reinstate services that have been lost. It's for regular turn-up and go services, development of them, and significantly 4,000 UK-built electric and hydrogen vehicles by the end of the current Parliament. There's reference to enhanced partnerships and under the Bus Services Act, of course, pursuing the idea of franchising has not been rolled out, all within the Bus Services Act, of course. I think this underlines something that Tim in particular has pursued, the need to have oven-ready schemes worked up, ready to go, to capitalise as much as possible on funding pots like this, and to ensure that the West Midlands gets its fair share of that. In fact, more than its fair share, I would say, after the work that's gone on, particularly in swift ticketing and so on a very, very low budget compared to Transport for London over the years. Now, Pete, we can discuss this in a bit more detail at the end of my comments. But I know that Pete wants to do an update for us to circulate to us this week, because he's been on one of those phone calls only today. We'll pick this up at the end. We've had news on the Restoring Your Railway, cases that have been submitted for the West Midlands, so that's moving at pace. We've got money for all or part of new stations at Willenhall, Dudderston and Darlaston, Moseley, Kingsheath, Hazelwell stations. The only one there was an election coming. I don't know whether anyone else has spotted it. The e-scooter and hail and ride type services at around Warwick University. The e-scooters have been launched. The hail and ride, I think the contracts have been awarded now to the companies who will be delivering that. It's a bus service. Be interesting to see how that goes, because that might be something that we could bring in within the £3 billion plan for bus strategy that I mentioned earlier. We've got. I've said that I've asked for a safer travel update to be circulated, certainly by early April, so we can see what's going on there. We're looking. I think this is from Pete. So we're looking through dates for reopening services, and we're seeing some operational changes in the use of the network patronage. It's actually increased to around 45%, I read here. At the beginning of the year, it had slunk quite badly. 50% on Metro. It's still lower on rail, which remains a concern really for the full recovery of rail. It's been managed. Attention is now turning to the 12th of April as the next date for reopening of non-essential retail and so on, to see what impact that has on the services and how they need to be tweaked, changed in order to accommodate it. The full case of Dudley interchange has been approved. That went to the Combined Authority. That's good news, and that will key in with the Wednesbury to Bridle Hill Metro line. What else have we got? We're going to deal with afterwards. Coventry, of course, the Combined Authority, you'll see from the report you've been circulated last week, it will be looking at the full business case for the all-electric bus city to make buses fully electric by 2025. You'll see how that's funded. We'll look at that when we get to the report in more detail. But that is all fully, going full speed ahead, which is pleasing to hear. Now, Pete, if you want to say something about the £3 billion bus strategy plan announced this morning and launched this morning in Coventry.
Thanks, Kath. I think you covered several points associated with it, but I mean, essentially, this is set out. One of the key criteria as well that wasn't mentioned is about fares and integration of fares and ticketing being a really key plank, particularly for city regions like ourselves. And it talks proactively about integration between modes as well, so to ensure that customers from buses can easily and readily access through to, in areas like ours, metro and rail systems as well. The further details, the report has been, I was shared, the document was shared with me about 15 minutes ago, and it's 84 pages. So we should take a look through it, but we should be in a position to be able to provide a fuller briefing note. But as you'd set out there already, Kath, it picks up not only just around the infrastructure, the supporting of new buses and zero emissions, such as those that we hope to see coming to Coventry very soon through the subject to the full business case going through the Combined Authority, but additionally then how we get that extra investment into zero emission buses throughout and make them clean and green, as well as supporting a growth in services. And it obviously talks there about some form of revenue funding, given that there is a talk of higher frequencies and services and integration between them as well. So happy Chair to take the action to give a summary from that 84-page document over the course of the coming days and share that out with members as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any other questions specifically on the bus strategy £3 billion fund? No? Okay, right. Let's just move on and find my agenda. Right, the minutes of the last meeting. Are they accurate? Okay, anybody like to propose that they are accurate?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Anyone? I think I see a second. Yeah, there's a seconder. Thank you. So look at item 5, the action tracker. We've now received a response to minute 93. That's Pete's update on bus recovery. I think we would look forward to perhaps a monthly update between, or an update when something significant happens, if it's not monthly, to be provided for the committee up to, let's say, the start of June during our election period, just for our information. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Any other comments? Okay. Today. Right. Matters arising from the minutes. I have one of my on page 1. Bullet point 3 on 84. I did appear before the Transport Scrutiny Subcommittee on the 22nd of February. I've circulated their recommendations arising from that to both groups, and to, first of all, to lead members, lead portfolio members. So I would like you to take a look at that. If you want to feed anything back in, I will be drawing up some kind of framework. The fact is that both committees, both the Transport Scrutiny Subcommittee and the full O&S Committee of the Combined Authority, were in quorum for both meetings. And so those minutes from the meetings will go to the Combined Authority for approval on this Friday. So I will be eager to know what steps will be taken to ensure that we put the recommendations in place. Remembering, of course, that COVID and I think a postponed mayoral election and so on impacted on us last year, when we were supposed to have required to have been engaged on terms of reference and so on, and role descriptions arising from the original review of transport governance in late 2019. So I think the Combined Authority will have to put a firmer stamp on what's to happen and how and when this time. Certainly, as hopefully we're coming out of the COVID emergency. Just to update you on that. Okay. Any other matters arising? I've just got one remark. It's on page 2, towards the end of minute 88. Chairman raised issues, the need to progress with SWIFT. As a result of that, we have a report and update on SWIFT Go, SWIFT ticketing. And I can also report that the Strategic Transport Board last Friday also had a full start to finish update on our work on SWIFT, which I think was impressive. I think impressed them greatly to know that all that work has been done on so much less than Transport for London has had for a similar process. So we'll catch up on what Chairman raised then later on the agenda. Any other matters arising? Oh, Diana. Diana?
Yeah,
Is that
no.
you got your hand up? Oh, you don't want to speak?
No, I don't.
Okay, it's just that your hand was showing.
I'm just going back to your. I thought we had to use these little hands.
Okay, let's just move on then. No more other matters arising. Okay. I've had no correspondence or petitions since the last time. No news of that. So moving on to item 8. Councillor, will you introduce the financial monitoring report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is obviously the final financial monitoring report for the 2020-21 financial year, reporting expenditure up to 31st January 2021. The final outturn, Madam Chairman, position will be shared at the committee's June meeting, the first meeting of the new municipal year. As to revenue budget, the year-to-date revenue position up to the end of January 2021 reflects a favourable variance of £3.4 million against budget, primarily driven by lower patronage volumes across the English National Concessionary Travel Scheme and child concessions. As members are aware, favourable variance across the portfolio are offset by significant income drops owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. These income drops are partially mitigated by government support for light rail, subsidised bus services, and reimbursement for an element of lost sales, fees, and charges across the transport network. The full year forecast position also reflects an improved position, an overall surplus for the year of £4.1 million, benefiting from greater certainty around government support for the region during the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Chairman, as to capital budget, there is a favourable variance of £99.8 million on the overall Transport for West Midlands capital programme, which is primarily made up of the following variations. Number 1, Westbury to Brierley Hill Metro Extension, which is £16.6 million favourable, reflecting the impact of COVID-19 restrictions. Number 2, Birmingham Eastside Metro Extension, which is £9.5 million favourable, reflecting HS2 utility diversions not commenced due to the final sign of the development agreement being rescheduled. This has now been completed. Number 3 is Sprint Hagley Road, which is £3.1 million favourable, reflects an ongoing review of the scheme design. Number 4 is Rail Package 1, £2.8 million favourable, reflects land acquisition now scheduled for 2021-22. Number 5 is Commonwealth Games Programme, £32.4 million favourable, the main variances being the A34 Sprint scheme, which is £13.5 million favourable, and the A45 Sprint scheme, which is £9.6 million favourable owing to COVID-19 restrictions. Number 6, other major schemes, £10 million favourable, primarily reflecting A435 Ulster Road Bus Priority Scheme, where a revised scheme has been proposed following a review. Number 7 is Minor Work Programme, which is £3.9 million favourable, reflecting a number of minor variations. And finally, number 8, grants to local authority, which is £7.2 million favourable. This relates to transforming city-funded schemes, which are in the early stages of development. And with that, Madam Chairman, I'd like to hand over to Louise if she wants to add anything or answer the questions, please. Grateful.
Thank you, Chair. No, I've got nothing to add to that comprehensive introduction. Thank you. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Right, Diana, your hand's still showing. No? Okay, Ted.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a couple of queries, really. I recognise that the reduction in the amount of both revenue and capital that we've spent is linked to COVID, but I was just wondering whether the effect of those delays is likely to increase costs in the future of some of the schemes, and equally bearing in mind that in some circumstances it's dependent upon successful grants or bidding from other areas. I just wonder what effect that could have on the delays caused by COVID, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we're looking at that currently. And although delivery schedules are not currently anticipated to be impacted by rephasing of capital expenditure plans, it is likely that the COVID-19 pandemic will lead to further rescheduling and prioritisation. And members will be aware that the COVID-19 restrictions are currently being eased. However, the overall financial impact in terms of potential cost pressures on the capital programme is not yet fully clear, as the timetable for the roadmap out of lockdown is guided by data rather than dates as that emerges. Hope that answers your question, Councillor Richards.
Yes, that's most helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? Diana. I can't unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry, I get it right. No, I was just looking at the grid on page 22. That was all. I was just wondering how the cycle hire scheme had gone out. I mean, we've done it in Sutton Coldfield, I understand, but as of this beginning of this month, in fact, I just wondered what the take up was. That was all. Thank you, Chairman.
I'm Councillor Hartley as Chair. I'll take that question if I may. So yes, we've had really positive feedback so far. I was going to pick this one up as part of the capital programme delivery report, but I'll give a brief update now. So we rolled out in Wolverhampton and Coventry last Monday. We are seeing good usage of the bikes, averaging around just over 2 rides per day, which is in line with the forecast that we originally put out. Obviously, we'll be growing the scheme over the coming weeks when it will roll out in other cities over the next few months, and we will have the full complement of bikes up and available by the summer. So good indication so far, and we are seeing some positive coverage on social media as well.
Smashing, excellent.
I'm just pleased to hear it. I'm just worried about them being pinched, Chairman. But anyway,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tim.
Thank you very much, Chair. My question is, I've heard this delivery schedules are not currently anticipated to be impacted by rephasing of expenditure plans. As we all know, that when we do utility works, we don't know exactly what's under the road when we do utility works, and sometimes we come up with some very nasty surprises, and they do impact on delivery timescales. My question is therefore, if when doing this concerted piece of work on utility diversions to meet the delivery dates, do we have robust backup plans so that if we come across something unexpected, we can actually deal with it and deliver the programme on time? Robust contingency plan, because some of these things, there is a very hard deadline and we can't miss the deadline. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, I will take
Sandy,
that.
yes.
So yes, Councillor Huxtable. So obviously with utility diversions on a number of our key projects at the moment are being looked at on a case-by-case basis. So we will normally have C4 costs by the time we actually stick spades in the ground. So we would have detailed understanding of what utilities we are paying to get moved, where they are, etc. As you rightly say, there are some which do give us a few surprises in terms of the type of utility or the depth at which they are, which would need a different way of dealing with it. Now, what we are doing is dealing with that on a case-by-case basis. There is generally provisions within the scope of works around making slight alterations to the works required and planning for that through the overall programme. It does need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. There's not a single mitigation plan that we can have for all the utility works, but the bulk of the work is done up front in utility companies in terms of the actual data and type of work done. I'm pleased to report that on the utility work that we've undertaken for the A45 sprint, that was done ahead of programme and under budget. So there are obviously other extremes when it can go better than anticipated. But like I said, I think we are dealing with those on a case-by-case basis should those issues come up, and working with our utilities contractors to find solutions where there are issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Celia?
Hi, Sandy. It's really nice to see the new bikes all over the city here in Wolverhampton. I was just, somebody was asking me how come the £1 release fee doesn't actually allow you to have like 20 minutes or 10 minutes free ride of the bike before starting to pay the 50p a minute. So my question is, I'm assuming that in the next 6 months or 1 year, you'd be able to evaluate how many people are using the bike, because obviously we haven't put them there for fancy. So when you do and the figures come back showing that there's been low patronage, would you be looking at would you be looking at costing around that, or can you just explain a bit more how these things happen?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. So yes, we've done a lot of work on the commercial model for the cycle hire scheme. So ultimately, we are taking the revenue risk of operating this. This is a service contract, so there is a charge that comes with it, and we need a commercial model that basically provides that return. Now, we've done quite a lot of research into the different fare payments, different types of tariffs that you can actually have. But one of the most attractive ones, recognising that there are quite a lot of short journeys that actually happen across the West Midlands, is around having a pay-as-you-go. So basically it's £1 unlock, and then it's the charge per minute. If we did end up with a scenario of a 10 or 20-minute free ride, we'd probably not generate any revenue at all from the system. So this is why we need to be able to make sure we can repay the cost of actually implementing the system. Now, what we will be doing is reviewing that at certain points throughout the contract provision, seeing how well it's working. There are provisions within the contract to revise the tariffs and structures to make sure that we can work towards that sort of optimal outcome of getting that commercial return back. But it's getting the balance right, as you say. We want to generate patronage, but also make sure that we're generating revenue. So this is how we've started it off. We will continue to review that over the coming months. And then if necessary, we can go away and look at those tariff structures and amend them as appropriate. Okay. But just to reiterate as well, though, so because this is being operated by Serco, we've tried to build in their experience of the systems that they're operating in London and in Edinburgh as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I've got Linda next, and Tim, your hand's still up. Do you want another go?
No, legacy hand, sorry.
Okay. Linda?
Thank you, Chair. And this relates to both Diana's and Celia's questions, really, about the bikes. At the moment, we've got going through the processes in Coventry Council, a charter for the Disability Equality Action Partnership. And although it specifically mentions rail and buses and encouraging people with disabilities to use the public transport, it struck me to wonder whether any of the bikes are available. I had a smashed hip. I'm frightened of using 2 wheels, but I can manage 3. And I just wondered whether within our system we have anything for those with disabilities who could hire those bikes.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Now, this is a theme which Richard has raised, certainly in the last 12 months, about disability cycling. Did you want to follow up before we get a response, Richard?
No, I'd just like to say that that's a really good point, Linda. Thank you for raising it.
Good, thank you. Sandeep.
Okay, so yes, we are doing lots of work with groups on adaptive bikes, so making sure that cycling is for all and making sure that we can provide an inclusive offer. So we've done quite a lot of work across the Black Country already around that, and we're trying to build that into future provision of the cycling scheme. So it isn't something that has been pushed to one side. It is definitely something that is front and centre as part of the Cycle Charter, and it's something that we will continue to push forward. Like I said, we've done some work already with some of the groups around adaptive bikes with some cycling groups already as part of the cycling hubs that we've already been working on over the past 18 months or so. It's then how we build that into the future contracts of the cycle hire scheme to make sure that we do make the scheme as inclusive as possible.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? No. Now, before we move on to the next item, amid all the contributions for Roger and Ted, I clean forgot to mention that we have a new member from Birmingham of the TDC. So I'd like to welcome Councillor Mohammed Idris to our committee. I do hope you've been following things, Idris, and that you'll find your time with us useful, informative, and obviously enjoyable. Okay, so that's Councillor Mohammed Idris from Birmingham.
Thanks, Kath.
Thank you. Pleased to meet you. Really pleased to introduce you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Shall we move on to item 8? Oh, no. Item 9, capital programme.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to present to the committee the capital programme delivery monitoring report. The committee is recommended to note achievements since the 11th January meeting of the TDC, to note the progress of deliverables and the outturn of the 2020-21 capital programme, and also to note where indicated any variations from the baseline programme. A more positive look at through the COVID-19 vaccination programme and the roadmap to remove lockdown restriction over the coming months will help with the ongoing delivery of our capital programme. Madam Chairman, notwithstanding this, there has been continued and significant positive progress against several projects within the capital programme this quarter. I would like to highlight a number of high-profile milestones Transport for West Midlands have reached with schemes that remain key transport priorities in the region. The following achievements have been completed during January and February. Number 1, Dudley Interchange, full business case approved at West Midlands Combined Authority Board on 12th February 2021. Number 2, Paribas Rail Station and Bus Interchange, full business case approved at West Midlands Combined Authority Board on 15th January 2021. Planning permission granted for Paribas Station and outline planning permission granted for the bus interchange on 4th February 2021. Network-wide bus station refurbishment phase 1. Bus station assets renewal work have been completed at Wensbury, Wolverhampton, Starbridge and West Bromwich. Resurfacing work have been completed at Lee Hall, Timpton, Old Green and Marston Green. West Midlands Cycle Hire trial commenced on 8 February 2021 and full scheme rollout commenced in Sutton Coldfield and Wolverhampton on 8th March. Madam Chairman, the committee should note the following exception during the reporting period. That is University Station, revision of baseline date, and also network-wide park and ride expansion developments, phase 2, program on a hold due to postponing the majority of development work for park and ride expansion subsequent to the impact of COVID-19 had on the demand for park and ride. And with that, Madam Chairman, I'd like to hand over to Sandeep to pick out any further details and take any questions, as you already did. Thank you.
Okay, Sandeep.
Councillor Akhtar does a great job at this, so I have nothing else to add. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Now, Tim, is that a new hand?
It is a new hand.
Okay, for a new hand instead of an old hand.
Well, as I frequently say, I'm sure deliberate mistakes are put in this in order to see whether we read it or read the paperwork or not. So, number 4, Perry Bar railway station and bus interchange. Second line from the bottom, it starts off the sentence, Birmingham City Centre and their contractors. I'm
always doing that, me.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's Birmingham City Council and their contractors.
Yeah.
But the substantive point is, again, it just seems, given the hard deadline, that if they're still only progressing with the design for the bus interchange, particularly liaising with the railway station project on the curb line boundary, you know, there's still a very, very short period of time before we need this bus interchange up and running and operational, and you know that interchange facility with the railway station. And here we are, March 2021, and we really have to get it done by the deadline of May 2022. So I've posed that first, and then number 9 is entitled, let's get this right, network-wide bus station refurbishment phase 1. But then it talks about resurfacing works, as Councillor Akhtar said, resurfacing works have been completed at Lee Hall, Tipton, Hall Green and Marsden Green. They're not bus stations. They're park and ride at railway stations. So is the project name actually right, or have we somehow conflated the two? And the last point I wanted to ask was about the university station. And again, I note the baseline assessment has moved for the full project. Again, hard deadline, Commonwealth Games. You know, can any more confidence be supplied that we are going to get it right on time in time for the Commonwealth Games, especially as the Athletes Village is now effectively going to be at Birmingham University and not a Perry Bar. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Sandeep?
Okay, I'll take them in order. So, yes, Councillor, we do put those in just to make sure people read the actual report. So it should be yes, Birmingham City Council. That's an overzealous autocorrect. No doubt that's kicked in. Just in relation to the questions around the interchange. So the interchange is quite a mature scheme in its own right. It's a scheme that had been worked on prior to the railway station. So outline design work had already been done. There is an effective group that is working across all the projects in Perry Bar around the coordination of programs and designs to make sure that they do all fit together and, like pieces of a jigsaw, do actually come together in the right way at the right time. We are also working very closely with Birmingham City Council as part of the delivery of their highways scheme for the delivery of the bus interchange element as it was coordinated with those highway works there. So those works are well established now. There is still confidence around the delivery of that by the summer 2022 date that we are working to for the Commonwealth Games. In terms of the interface with the other projects, the team that is looking after the railway station also oversees the work on that. And like I said, it is all part of that wider coordination group that sits across all the capital projects that are being delivered within Perry-Barr. On number 9, the resurfacing, and apologies for that, this is the way in which the various projects have been put together in the way that they are done. We can separate those out just to provide that clarity, but it's the type of works that take place at both our bus stations and some of our park and rides, which is why they're reported in that way, but make it clearer in future reports. And in terms of University Station, we do have a clear programme. We do have a contractor on board now. So we are working with. Now, there is an ultimate date at which we need to have the facility ready for games time operations, and that is what the programme is currently working to. And that is what we are working very closely with the contractors on, making sure that we can maintain that programme.
Okay. Any other questions or remarks? Nope. Well, okay, we'll move on then. Thank you, Sandip and team, for that, keeping us up to date. Be interesting to see the report in June. Item 10. All right, we've had a paper from Matt Lewis on SwiftGo, the future development of payments in the West Midlands. Would you like to take us through it, please, Matt? I'm very impressed with your presentation to the Transport Strategy Board on Friday. I think it was impressive, and it impressed the Cabinet members for Transport as well.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Chair. Okay, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen, as this helps me to guide through as I present this to you. So yeah, you guys will know that we launched Swift Pay As You Go in 2012 as the very first product on Swift, and that was on the back of customer research that showed us that having to have the right change was a barrier. It's quite obvious, you having to have the right change to get on the push the barrier. So Swift Pay As You Go solved that barrier, and actually it's been a huge success. But the one thing it couldn't do is cap out to best value at the end of the day. So it's quite a complex fare structure in the West Midlands, as you all know. So you needed really extensive knowledge of fares for you to get good value with Swift Pay As You Go. Whereas in London, which is probably more complex, the Oyster card scheme caps out at the end of the day, so you don't really need to know the fares, you just get best value. So we've spent a long time trying to deliver that, and we finally got the funding a few years ago to deliver our version of capping. So we've come a long way with it. We've already got it on 11 bus operators services. So if you're an adult travelling on 11 bus operator services, including National Express, Stagecoach, Arriva, or the tram, you're getting capping. So you don't pay more than £4.80 a day if you're travelling on bus. As I said, it also works on the tram. So it is truly multimodal. If you travel on the bus and the tram, you won't pay more than £6.80, which is great. We wanted it to stand out from Swift Pay As You Go because it is different. So we've called this SwiftGo, simply just go, payment sorted out afterwards through capping. So that's the new brand of this. The system is really intelligent. So I'll just give you the £4.80 and the £6.80 fares for bus and tram, but it knows about all the fares. So if all you do is travelling off peak, you'll get a cheaper fare. If you only travel on one bus operator service, you'll get a cheaper fare. So that's already there. It's not just for people that have bank accounts, which is really important. So if you don't have a bank account, you can add cash to your SwiftGo account through one of our travel shops, and we're rolling out through Payzone. So there'll be 1,100 shops you can load your cash at. There's still a bit to do, so we're still working on it. So it's good that people are benefiting already, but we need to roll out on the other 9 bus operators. Most of that is now set up in terms of the commercial arrangements. There's very few operators that don't want to do this at the moment. They all really do. So we're just working to roll that out. Doesn't work for children at the moment. It's always really complex to get this to work for children because usually you need parents' consent, etc. That's now planned and will be there by summer 2021. SwiftGo credits at vending machine. We're very, very close to signing that off. And as you'd expect, I've got quite a decent sum for a marketing campaign, which I'm holding back. It's not really the right time to promote it now. But Swift Go will be a good part of that fight back against COVID-19 because it really is flexible. You know, it does 1 day capping at the moment. It can do 3 day capping and 1 week capping.
Excellent.
So it's going to be really important.
Excellent.
And we need to carefully withdraw Swift Pay As You Go. That's another thing. You know they'll work together for a period of time. Then we need to carefully withdraw them. We've made some progress on the rail side. So the West Midlands Trains, they want to do this. They're working with us to do this, but at the moment the validators aren't there on the network. They've took delivery of them. They're just waiting to install them. Once they're installed, we can get this going. We are doing a piece of work this year to get accreditation for rail sales in the Swift systems. That hopefully where we want to be by the end of 21-22 is that we have all the validators installed, we have accreditation, so we can roll this out into the tram as well. But that essentially means we're doing what Oyster Card is doing, which is what we've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just to finish this off, because it's wider than that. So we've actually revolutionised the technology here. No longer is this card based like Swift Pay As You Go. This is account based. So we can do a whole host of other things, and we've already started with that. So unlimited number of caps, and it doesn't have to be bus, train and tram caps. It could be bus, train, tram, bike, for example, could be the caps, and also linking other functions. So when Longbridge Park and Ride opens through Swift Go, if you've registered your number plate on your Swift account, we will automatically charge you because your number plate is a token. We see you come in, we see you go out, we automatically charge you. So this is the start, really. There's some really exciting opportunities with this as we progress it further. Let me close that down so I can see you all again. So thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
This is great because as soon as we start to wonder whether we're starting to fall back a little or not be quite so far ahead of the rest, Matt always comes in with this really very pleasing updates on the progress he and his team have made. Are there any comments, questions? Celia and Linda. Celia.
Hi, Matthew.
Oh,
it sounds interesting because I used to use Oyster Cards a lot. But I was going to ask you, why didn't you guys just use the Swift card and sort of migrate it into Swift mode? But I think some of your comments there explains a bit, because I was thinking the technology actually just rests on the equipment we have in the train stations and all of that. But from what you're saying, it looks like some sort of stuff is done on the card itself as well. Am I right or wrong? So that's one. Secondly, the Swift Go, does it respond to off-peak? Say, can you go into the train? You know, like in London, we have undergrounds and all of that. So that helps with checkmating the off-peak and the non-off-peak time and all of that. So how does this translate in the West Midlands, where we don't necessarily have underground facilities?
Yeah, so to just come back on your first question. So yeah, Swift Go, like I say, it's a revolution of the technology. It moves away from being purely card-based to now account-based. So we can, all of the intelligence now sits in the cloud, sits in the computer system. We did look when we were rolling out about the strategy, because you could. The problem we've had is, as you can see from our presentation, it's a staged rollout. So it's very rare do you have a big bang, everything's ready at once. So because we've got a staged rollout, we couldn't really close down Swift Pay As You Go because, for example, children are still using that at the moment. So that's why we kept it with those two. We'll cohabit for a while. Once Swift Go is embedded, we'll start to switch off Swift Pay As You Go. Essentially, it does become that Oyster equivalent. In terms of your point about off-peak, yeah, absolutely, it recognises everything because it's unlimited. It sits in the cloud, and it's about server size that sets your rules rather than a small card now. So it recognises the operator on, the time you travel, even the area. I mean, we all know people that have just travelled in Walsall, for example, so the Walsall low fare zone can apply. You know, so it really is a good system in that regard.
Lovely. Linda.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is also exciting. But again, because I've got the Coventry disability equality charter on my mind. Is everything accessible to those with disabilities, those in wheelchairs and with other difficulties? Is it a really accessible system? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, so essentially this is just making it easier for everyone to pay. We did a lot of work originally around accessibility, around the card design, etc. So we're taking an accessible system that has been tested with disability partners, and we're making it even easier to use. So absolutely, this should be easier than ever before.
Oh, thank you, Chair. That's magic. Thank you.
I've got Roger, Tim, then Chairman.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Matt. Interesting presentation. Now, as a current pay-as-you-go user, how will I find out about this, and how will I be able to transfer into the new system? Do I need a new card, or do I lose a card altogether and have to use my phone, or what am I going to do? It's not clear to me.
Yeah, so as I said, we've not really marketed this yet. It's difficult to justify given the circumstances of where we are. But there are two ways for you to get SwiftGo. So the first one, if you've got a card already, then you can go online, or you can go to one of our travel shops and sign up to SwiftGo, and then you'll be able to collect it on the current card you've got. So you don't necessarily need a new card. If you don't have a card, you can get a new SwiftGo card. So that's how this is set up. Once we're over, the COVID issue, we're really going to go to town. We've got people's email addresses, so the customers that we currently have, we can directly engage with them, really make it easy for them to transition into SwiftGo. And like I said, I've got a reasonable part of marketing funding to make sure that those that don't have any of our cards get to know about this scheme, so we can really push it forward.
Okay, thanks.
Tim.
2 points is one talks about the rollout on the train system. Obviously, we don't rely in the West Midlands on just West Midlands trains. We also have Chiltern, we also have Arriva, we have the successor to Virgin, whose name escapes me momentarily. And obviously, you can use your Swift card to do journeys within the West Midlands on those train operators. So how are they going to be included within the SwiftGo family is my first question. And my second is my 12-year-old daughter, thanks to Matt, has a Swift card, which she loves and gives her so much independence, and also means that she's not relying on Dad as a taxi, which is really good because it reduces my car journeys as well. I'm very much looking forward to TrailGo. Is that still going to be card based, or how will that actually work in terms of the transition?
Okay, so to answer your first question, it's actually the operator is that's not really the relevant issue here. So all of the operators already accept Swift on so there's about 36,000, or there was before COVID, regular customers using all of those train operators. It's the issue is around stations. So some of them own certain stations, like Solihull, for example, is a Chiltern station. What we're looking to do, and we haven't got agreement to do this yet, we want to install the West Midlands Trains hardware that's rolling out everywhere else, including Hereford, Shrewsbury, all those areas. We want to include the hardware from West Midlands Trains onto those stations. Early indications from the TOCs is they're up for that. So that's the easier answer, because it means everything works and is integrated. So that's what we're pursuing at the moment on that one. In terms of your daughter's card, so yes, essentially, there's two options here. It's card based for those that want to use a card, which I know a lot of people still will want to use a card. You can transfer the SwiftGo product onto the card you have, or get a new SwiftGo card. We are very, very close now to the full rollout of what we're calling Swift on mobile, which is linking us with Google Pay. So we can digitalise the Swift card into your Google Pay wallet so that you can actually use your phone to do this. Swift Go will be part of that as well. The challenge we've got is Google Pay is an Android only solution, and there is no real equivalent on Apple at the moment. But we're working through that. But certainly for Android customers, they will be able to have a digital version of Swift card through the Google Pay wallet. So essentially they'll touch their phone on our hardware across the network. So I'm sure your daughter will probably want to at least test the that phone version if she has an Android phone.
She's got an Apple.
Okay.
Oh.
A little bit more time to wait for that one then.
Okay, Chairman.
Thank you. I remember when we started on the Swift card, it was ICSO compliant, and whereas the London Oyster card wasn't. And if that's the case, then we can truly make it a national card, so they can be used anywhere in the country. Then we can beat the Oyster card people then. I mean, we are ahead of them, but we can beat them better if we can make it national, and we can make some loyalty money out of it. And secondly, traditionally, we saw any smart card suffer from if they're close to another, say, credit card or debit card, you could be charged double. You get debited from your travel card, smart card, as well as from debit card and credit card. Is that still the same case, or have we solved this issue? Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, your first question first then. So essentially that is our vision. Our vision is to roll out Swift well beyond the West Midlands to one, first of all, get that journey to work area covered, but also to bring in other commissions. And we use ITSO, which is the national standard. Oyster has been built solely for London and therefore doesn't work anywhere else. We've actually had some reasonable progress. So last year we rolled out Swift into Hereford. You guys know about Redditch and Cannock already. Milton Keynes have taken up Swift rather than build their own solution. So we've got a good framework to build on there, and we're really keen to push that. So we will continue on that. Your point about contactless payment, again, is a really good one. So you can link with Swift Go, you can link your bank account, and therefore you never run out of money, but you still have to get over hold of the card or download it through your app, etc. It's a bit of a faff, whereas using your bank card, because you've got it in your pocket, is ideal. Now, we did a load of work last year to roll out contactless on across every bus. So now you can use your bank card on every bus operator service. You can use it on the tram. The validators that are coming on the train will accept your bank card as well. We've got a real challenge, though, that unlike Swift, communications between operators doesn't happen. So if you travel on Diamond and National Express, for example, and use your bank card, you'll actually pay twice the fare. You won't get any capping, etc. We've designed a solution for it. It's quite expensive. It costs about £20 million to build, and we're seeking the funding. Essentially, we've asked DFT for the funding for it. We're exploring all avenues to try and solve that, because we do see that as that's our missing step, isn't it? We've pushed Swift so far now; it's doing some really good things, but people want to use the bank card, and we need to be able to let them do it ultimately. So we're pushing hard to try and get the funding so we can deliver that solution.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other contributions or questions? Well, thank you, Matt. I know that you've not been able to provide us with the annual comparison of bus fares across certainly the 6 metropolitan transport areas in England and beyond because of the COVID crisis and people's attention being turned to more important things. But we look forward to that eventually once all the Swift developments have proceeded. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Now a presentation from Sarah on the latest travel survey summary. It's an important one. It's done in-house. It's not by people beyond Summer Lane. So let's see what Sarah has to tell us. We've all got the presentation, haven't we?
Yes, so what you had with your pack was January's results. But what I have in front of me now, and I'm going to share with you, is the very latest February data. So sometimes, for those who aren't aware, this has replaced clipboard and pen as our way of tracking people's attitudes and opinions. And it is a telephone survey that is done with a representative sample of the West Midlands. And we analyse it, but the field work is done by a Coventry-based market research company because we don't have enough staff to do the telephone. So it follows the methodology that Transport Focus are using as well, which asks about your travel habits in the last 7 days. And then if you have travelled, depending on what mode of transport you've used, there's a bank of satisfaction questions. I've only brought the bus ones with me today, although it does cover car drivers and pedestrians. We haven't, unfortunately, picked up enough people travelling by rail or metro in either of these monthly waves as yet, not within the last 7 days. So when we ask people, this data is since December when we started this survey, if they had travelled in the last 7 days, you can see that the most common way that people are travelling around, and we have to remember a lockdown, is by walking. That is then followed by cycling, and you've got over 70% of trips in any week done by these modes, and buses down to a 17% weekly travel, and cycle 8%. So if we looked at this by month, we can see that despite February being a lockdown period, more people have travelled than in January. So 53% of people had travelled as a car driver during February. 53% had also walked. And in terms of people who didn't make a trip, this was a 14% share, which is down on the 20% in January. Car passenger is a growing share, and bus is hovering at 7% and is down since December when there was some element of non-essential travel allowed. And the other thing that is significant is to look at modes of travel, obviously, by whether there is a car in the house or not. And 18% of people in a non-car in-house will have a lift, but there is a significant proportion who don't make a trip within non-car in households. So satisfaction with the bus journey. So over the 3 months, we were able to sample 160 recent bus users. And as you can see, the overall journey experience, 9 out of 10 were very satisfied or satisfied with that, and they were also, potentially due to less congestion, happy with their journey time. As we've talked about before, it was issues around the behaviour and attitude of other passengers and the amount of space that caused most dissatisfaction. And when the people who were dissatisfied were asked to go into more detail, we've got non-compliance of face coverings and just crowdedness and not being able to socially distance. And then we go into more traditional complaints such as cost and reliability. But if we look at people's opinions by month, and February is the grey bar here, we can see that satisfaction seems to have improved in certain areas under presumably the quieter lockdown periods. So personal space was quite high. The behaviour of passengers is showing a steady but slow increase. Punctuality was perhaps a downturn, and also the length of time that the journey took, but it's still 91% satisfaction. Value for money again is very high, And the cleanliness of the interior, thankfully, that is holding a very positive high 80s. And when we asked people if the reasons why they hadn't travelled in the last 7 days, the main reason was concerns about COVID, that's 46%, and this idea that there was no need to travel, so that was 34%. And that was particularly evident amongst young people here as schools were closed. In terms of poor health, then we can see in this older cohorts that becomes more of a concern. And in terms of the overall impact, 2 out of 3 people here, 64%, said that COVID has changed the way that they travel, and that is significantly higher amongst the elderly. And it is increasing over the months. So December, 57%, 69% reporting an impact in February. And what people are doing in terms of their changing travel patterns, they're generally making less journeys, that's 7 out of 10. And travelling by public transport less was reported by a quarter, working from home more, and then walking more positively. That was an increase in February, up to 15% of reasons for changes in travel. And that might potentially increase as the better weather comes. And it's also something that's evident amongst young people. We added a question this month around about what the impact of the vaccine might have. And we asked people, if the vaccine was available, would you be willing to travel by public transport about once a week? And we can see here that a third agreed that they would. Obviously, that isn't as high amongst non-car owning households, but it was over half of current non-car owning households did think that they would return to weekly public transport use as the vaccine rolls out. And finally, one other thing that has come out of COVID is an increase in awareness of Transport for West Midlands. And this is over half of the populations feel they're fully aware and another quarter partially aware. People most aware in Wolverhampton and least aware, but still quite high, are younger people. And that is my report for February. I'll send with the papers the full report that has all the modal information on. Any questions? I'll stop sharing.
Sarah, it's Pete Bond here. Thank you.
Hello.
Just to let you know, Richard, Councillor Worrell, Kath Hartley's laptop's unfortunately packed up. So if you wouldn't mind taking over the chair for a few moments.
Okay.
Kath's trying to rejoin us, but if you'd be happy, Richard, just to pick up the chair.
I can try. Okay, so we've got, yes, I can see a hand. Diana. You're on mute, I think.
Yes, that was a very interesting report, I have to say, and the figures are very, some ways discouraging. We must have to see how we get on. Can I just ask, why is tram so low? I don't fully understand. Is the answer because people are working from home at the end of most of the routes the tram go on, or is it the type of jobs that people have? I'm not quite sure, because it's always low.
Yes, the tram survey is because of the methodology, because it's a telephone survey and we interview 500 people a month. It's very hard to pick up people who live along the metro route. The survey was designed to have that element of face-to-face in it. In the first wave, we did have an interviewer going out there and trying to, you know, have a conversation with people. But since lockdown, we haven't been able to do that. So we're hoping that as more restrictions ease up, we will be able to do more face-to-face or, you know, target those local areas. And the same with rail. There are so few people on the rail network, that it would make interviewing in that intercept survey really expensive as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Linda, are you indicating?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sarah. It's just something I think wasn't quite brought out by the phrase COVID restrictions, because people like me, because of age and diabetes, recently had another government letter saying not to go out until March the 31st, not even to a pharmacy. And so it's not that people want to travel. Personally, I'm itching to get on a bus again, but we're not allowed to.
Yes,
we can't do. So walking becomes the only mode, and I think that might perhaps be brought out a bit more, because restrictions seems to imply whole restrictions, whereas there are certain people who are much more restricted from travelling than people generally are during the lockdown. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
So,
back on that?
Yes, so you can see that we have broke it down to poor health, self-isolating, and because of new lockdown restriction, government advice, all of it playing in to the field of why people aren't travelling at the moment. But I'll share the full report.
Thank you.
Oops. Hello.
Hello, Chair.
Hello, I'm back again now. I think the same happened to me as happened to Tim in a recent meeting. The laptop and Teams just imploded, so I had to go out and come back in again. Oh, right. Do you want to finish this item, Richard?
Oh, well, is legacy, Linda, is that a legacy hand there?
Yes, it is. Just taking it down.
Anything further, anyone? Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. That was interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, over to you, Chair.
Am I back now? Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, can hear you, Kath.
Oh, there's
Yes,
somebody
Kath.
there. Right, thank you. Right. Have we now finished item 11? Are we done with item 11?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm not aware of anybody else. Right. You know, thank you, Sarah. I missed the tail end of that. Item 12, the Combined Authority Board reports. There's only one for our information, and it's the Coventry Electric Bus City report. I see that the team has managed to pull in finances on top of the £50 million potential from the government to try and introduce the full 100% of the vehicles by the 2025 deadline. Has anybody got any questions or comments on this? It's certainly a multi-agency, multi-party effort, which is very, very, very pleasing to see. Any comments? Okay. Right,
Just to say, Councillor Hartley, that we're hoping that the full business case will be approved on Friday.
Yes,
yes. And it will be absolutely excellent for this region to be at the forefront of this. So we look forward to hopefully its approval on Friday.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Idris.
Yes, Chair. You know, the electric buses, are they going to be a new fleet of buses, or the existing ones can be modified from diesel into electric?
Pete?
Yes, really good question. The proposal is that they are all new buses. So the vast majority of buses will be new. There are currently discussions ongoing about repowering some existing buses that are only just a few years old, and there may be room for a trial of that to be a part of this, because this is a learning experience not only for the West Midlands but for the country as a whole. So there is a possibility that that may form part of it, but for the vast majority, assume that this is in the main all brand new buses for the city.
I should think that the ability to draw in Warwickshire and the operators to such a great degree, and to find funding from the combined authority itself, would set us in good stead for furthering increasing the numbers of electric and hydrogen buses across the region out of this £3 billion fund that was announced this morning. So, yeah.
Absolutely, Councillor Hotley, and that point, which we hope comes through on the report that's going to the Combined Authority Board, to set out that actually, whilst this is a huge benefit for the city of Coventry, this is also a great step forward for the West Midlands region. And as we enable, once we come through this, we will be the first region who have gone through, if you like, not only the benefits, but also the pain of ensuring that we manage procurement law, state aid law, commercial law, and all of those things as to getting all of those operators into a fully electric fleet. So already the government has pledged, they did that they will be looking to talk about, they pledged in the budget that there would be a further £70 million this year. I think that is from that 3 billion associated with zero emission buses, whether that be electric or hydrogen. And already we're working with the bus operators in the region to look beyond Coventry at what the next steps and bids are. So that's for sprint, that's for major corridors, that's for general bids that we can put into the next stage of funding that comes from government. So this is all part of a roadmap, as opposed to it stops at the boundaries of Coventry, Warwickshire, and those services that move through.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you, Chair. You know how excited I am about this. But what I will be doing is I will be forwarding to you and to Pete the Disabilities Equality Charter that I've already spoken about today. Before we get to design stage, everyone is so excited about this. I mean, it is just wonderful for Coventry, and as you said, it will be wonderful for the rest of the West Midlands as it rolls out. So thank you very much, Pete.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've tried not to say woohoo, but I'm going to say it anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further remarks? Okay. Well, let's move on. That is good news. We have no notices of motion or questions. We have the forward plan, which we will be preparing for the coming year from June onwards, ready for that fresh year. Leaves us with the date of the next meeting, which I've already said is the 14th of June. It sort of remains to be said that I certainly wish everybody a fair, decent and honest election campaign. I can't wish everybody a success, but nonetheless, let's have a good campaign. Let the best candidate win. And again, particularly if you're defending your seat, of course, in May. And just a final thank you to Roger and Ted for the work that they have done on transport in this region and beyond over their years of service. I'm sure it's not really the last we'll be seeing of them around the region on these key issues, but thank you ever so much, and thank you everybody else for your input throughout the year.
And thank you, Chair.
This is one of my favourite committees.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Brilliant.
Thank you,
I've got some
Thank you.
Bye. Everybody, thank you.
Thanks,